fantasy people. This is Tyler, Big Turd Ward, coming at you live from my garage. And this is the Fantasy Football Show. Today's episode, Week 13, Thursday night player pause. So the Bills are going to New England to play a football game tonight. And we are going to tell you, I'm covering the home team, which is New England. Jason already covered the away team, the Bills. And so we're going to go through, like the top fantasy performers out of all of them and tell you what we think if you should, be all about playing them or maybe have some pause on them. So let's start off with this. Oh, first thing, if I could just take a second and ask you guys to give us a thumbs up, that'd be amazing. And if you want to, not like us, give us a thumbs down. That's cool too. Leave us comments, start, sit, how much you hate us, whatever you want to do. So first off, Mac Jones coming off, dude, like his best game in forever. So he threw for 382 yards, 2 touchdowns versus my Vikings last week. And the Vikings defense has, kind of sucked for about 3 weeks now or something like that. They've always kind of given up a lot of plays to wide receivers and quarterbacks, but they're not even getting sacks anymore. So that was kind of keeping them in game, was getting a lot of sacks, turnovers. And that has not been the case for a while. So Mac Jones had an easy-ish, matchup last week at home. So Minnesota, 27th best versus fantasy quarterbacks. But now he faces the Bills, who are 7th best. So from a really easy defense to a very difficult defense against quarterbacks. But the Bills just gave up 2 touchdowns to Jared Goff, in Detroit. So that was an away game on turf. So he did that. So I told you about the weather. I do not think that, Mac Jones is back to Pro Bowl form like he was last year, but I think this was a good sign. At least I think playing at home for New England is going to be like a pretty safe play for Mac Jones. I do not think he has that great of a ceiling. So I think if you want to get like 12 to 15 points from your quarterback this week, you can play Mac Jones. But I do have pause on Mac Jones just because for him to succeed, he's going to have to get Hunter Henry and Jakobi Myers involved a lot. And right now, Jakobi Myers is questionable. So I don't know if he's going to be limited or what. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But I predict 225 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception for Mac Jones. That's not a good game. So I think he is kind of going to be matchup dependent. I think he needs a good matchup and to be at home because we need to see a lot more of this going forward if we want to make him an every week starter. Taz, dude, I paid a lot of money for those wood chunks, man. For some reason, these dogs like wood chunks from Texas. There you go. Rhamondre Stevenson. So Damian Harris is out. He was just ruled out this morning. So there you go. Or Wednesday morning. I'm shooting this on Wednesday. But he just went 7 for 36. So he went 7 for 36 with 9 receptions for 76 yards. I mean, so people have not had a lot of success against the Bills running the ball. I mean, they just allowed, I think it was like 96 yards to Detroit last week. So they held Detroit under 100 yards. They've been doing that a lot lately. But what they do allow is a lot of pass catching to, running backs. So I can see Rhamondre Stevenson having, 100 total yards and a touchdown this game. I love playing Rhamondre Stevenson this game, just mostly because of Damian Harris is out. He's going to have the full workload against a team that you're going to have to throw to your running backs to keep it short. And he is like an amazing pass catching running back. So last week, okay. So yeah, anyways, the Vikings are 21 best versus fantasy running backs this year. And now he's going to go against a team that's 13th best. So it is a very difficult matchup, but I mean, 13th best is that's kind of almost middle of the pack. And the strength of the Bills defense is the outside and the pass the pass rush. So you can see a lot of slot, tight end, slot wide receiver, running backs catching a lot of balls. I really like Rhamondre Stevenson. And he's averaged 8 targets a game over the last month. So there you go. It's a lot of data telling us to start Rhamondre Stevenson. Now, Jakobi Myers. I would love Jakobi Myers in this game if he was fully healthy. And I'm going to assume that he is. And this is going to be my big play. So he's been averaging under 6 yards a game for the last 3 games. And he has not had more than 62 yards in a game since week 7. So, dude, Jakobi Myers was like, a revelation in the beginning of the year. I remember watching him thinking like, man, all this guy does is underneath slot routes, slot routes, underneath. And he kills people that way, death by 1,000 cuts or whatever. So I do like Jakobi Myers this game. I could see him going, I have him statted out, like 8 receptions for like 90 yards, 88 yards. I just like to do those double digit numbers. My favorite number is 22. But anyways, dude, so also had not more than 62. He went 3 for 62 versus Minnesota last week for 28th best against. So he had a sweet matchup. He only went 3 for 62 last week. But Buffalo are 25th best versus wide receivers. So, dude, actually Buffalo is a good matchup for wide receivers here. You just have to pick the right one. And, Amon-Ra St. Brown just killed Buffalo. He's the slot receiver like 90% of the time. So I think, like I said, vulnerable, even though Von Miller is not going to play this game, I still think they can generate enough of a pass rush against this team to make them throw short. I mean, New England's always thrown short anyways. So yeah, I'm all about playing Jakobi Myers. I think he's going to have, 8 for 88. And I only have 1 touchdown for Mac Jones, and that's not going to be to Jakobi Myers. I think he's going to be all between the 20s, but red zone belongs to a man I'll talk about here in a second. Nelson Agholor, he led all wide receivers in targets last week versus Minnesota, went 6 for 65 with a touchdown. That was his first game with 3 or more targets for the last 5 games. So that's not reliable. Matt Jones has not been doing well, and he has just not been targeting Nelson Agholor. So he had a sweet matchup last week, and he took advantage of it. So I don't think it's very sustainable. I'd follow the usage of Jakobi Myers or maybe even Devante Parker before I went Nelson Agholor. So I'm having pause on him, maybe 3 for 35 yards, something like that. Devante Parker led the team in receiving yardage last week versus Minnesota. He went 4 for 80, caught all of his targets. But there's only been 1 game where he has been startable this entire season. Like, if you're in PPR, he got 12 points last week, but if not, he's literally had 1 game. That was week 3. So I think Devante Parker gets like 2 catches for 40 yards or something. The Buffalo Bills are a bend don't break defense, and he's kind of their deep threat. So I would not be chasing those points with Devante Parker. And then Hunter Henry is who I have catching the touchdown this week. So if you know anything, I was talking a lot about Mac Jones and Hunter Henry in the beginning. I really liked Hunter Henry. He was on my waiver show a lot in the beginning. But you know what? He's only had 2 touchdowns this year, and one of them was last week. But I'm calling it right now. He goes back to back. He's going to catch a touchdown versus Buffalo this week. So he had 5 targets last week for 63 yards and a touchdown. But, I mean, his targets, the week before, 1. The week before that, 4. The week before that, 1. The week before that, 2. So has not been good. But I want to encourage you to start Hunter Henry. I mean, I like starting tight ends on Thursdays anyways, because, I mean, what's the difference between 1 point and 0 points, I'm gonna get 1 point from my tight end on Sunday that I can trust, or I can get a 0 point from a random dude on Thursday. Sorry, man, it's been a long day. Anyways, so Hunter Henry, I like a lot. I say start him. And then New England D, the number 1 fantasy defense on the season, going against the Bills, who are the 4th toughest against fantasy defenses. So terrible matchup. Even though Josh Allen has not been doing much. I mean, it's not like they've been putting a lot of points on people like they were. They were steamrolling people for 40 points a game for a long time until he got injured. But I'm not rolling the dice on that, man. So they just had their worst game of the year versus Minnesota, who scored 33 points on them. So I think they had like 3 points last week, fantasy-wise. And and now they've got the Buffalo Bills coming to town. And I love the Vikings, but I know the Buffalo Bills are better than the Vikings. So, yeah. Anyways, you're not starting a New England defense, but you are holding them, for God's sake, okay? You're not dropping them, especially because if you have the New England defense, you're probably playoff bound anyways. Stupid. I should just draft the New England defense every year, like in the second to last round. And then Nick Folk, the number 5 kicker on the year. He scored double-digit points in 3 of his last 4. But Buffalo is third best versus fantasy kickers this year. But guess what, dude? I could see. I mean, I got this. For what, one touchdown? There's gonna be more points than that. It's gonna be like, I could see like 3 field goals for Nick Folk this game. So I said Nick Folk, right? Yeah, Nick Folk, ex-Cowboy kicker. Sorry, guys, I'm so tired. It's like I need some energy, man. But hey, I did it in the garage, high def. Get to see the cool stuff. I don't know if having no Wi-Fi matters, but hey, we'll find out in a minute. So anyways, if you made it to the end of this, thank you so much. I better put my wedding ring on. I can tell I don't have it right there. I just worked out, so it scratches the crap out of my wedding ring that is a recycled skateboard. Pretty cool, right? And cheap, even better. All right, guys and girls, I will catch you on the flip side.